You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy, and it is a great day because last night we had these primaries nationwide all over the country, and every candidate President Trump endorsed won. They still will not declare Kari Lake. Kari Lake is about 12,000 votes ahead, and you know, if you got your news just from Fox News, you would hardly know there was a primary election last night. They're hardly talking about it. Mm-hmm. You know, the headline.
Oh, yeah, it's like crickets.
Yeah, the headline from last night is it's a MAGA sweep.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not even mentioning Trump, his endorsements, anything on Fox. Complete black. I've been watching Newsmax today, and they're doing great. But
because they want to give the impression that he has no clout, that he's totally irrelevant.
Oh, yeah.
He is completely reshaping the party. One by one, systematically. He is going after everybody that's against him. And he's reshaping. He's getting rid of all the rhinos. And they don't want to admit it. They don't want to talk about it. But it's going to happen whether they like it or not.
Well, I was watching Newsmax earlier, and they had a segment they had on the great Dick Morris, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago. And Dick Morris is a senior advisor to President Trump right now, and he has been for a couple of years. And he was on there with Rick Santorum, and Rick Santorum is an establishment guy. And let me tell you, Rick Santorum is not a nice man. We had him as a guest on the program, and he yelled at me. I can't remember what the discussion was about, but he
I could see that.
He raised his voice to me here on the podcast. I was shocked, Rick Santorum.
But I remember that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the thing was. But anyway.
Another snowflake.
Rick Santorum, you know, he's on there with Dick Morris on Newsmax, and Santorum's with the Republican establishment, and he says, well, President Trump had an okay night last night. Every candidate he endorsed won.
Exactly.
That's not an okay night. He said, but it doesn't mean he'll do well if he's on the ballot. What are you talking about? And Dick Morris is...
You know what it is? They're lying to themselves.
Well, Dick,
they just can't handle it.
This is spin. Dick Morris went right after him and said, wait a minute, no one's ever done this. He's not on the ballot. He's not an official nominee, and he's still doing this. This is his story. You know, this thing with Kari Lake, what's going on with Kari Lake, it involves Fox News, is Bret Baier embarrassed himself, and he hates Kari Lake. She was on his show a few weeks back.
She humiliated him.
Oh, he humiliated himself out of his arrogant stupidity, and he didn't have the true story. He was talking to her about this drag queen thing, and she body slammed him. She had pointed out something that's very true. She's not saying there should not be drag queens and there should not be drag shows. Kari Lake has a very reasonable position that drag queens should not be putting on shows in public school for children.
Yeah, but they try to paint her as a homophobe or transphobic. She's not against drag. Nobody's against drag queens.
Yeah, and
they just don't think they should be teaching kids how to dance on a stage and have dollar bills shoved down their pants.
And Bret Baier was
what they're
completely humiliated by that exchange with Kari Lake. He was not prepared. He was believing this hype, and he hates her. And Bret Baier is now in charge of the election coverage on Fox News. He's the one that does the counts and all of that. And so he's in charge of the Fox News Election Center, and they won't call it for Kari Lake because he hates her, and he's trying to put this off. And another thing they're doing, too, is they're trying to put it off as long as they can for this little personal beef that Bret Baier has. But also...
They're hanging on to hope.
Yeah, but also they
really are.
They don't want to have like one night where Trump has every victory. They want to try to put it off a week or two so it's kind of out of the news when they make the announcement. Kari Lake won last night. She's over 12. She's about 12,000 votes ahead, over 11,000, and she's doing well.
Election Wizard is calling it for her.
You don't have to be a wizard.
Well, that's a really popular Twitter handle, Election Wizard.
No, I know
calling it for Kari Lake, even though you called it already this morning.
I called it this morning. You know, it was so strange. I got up extra early this morning because of the election last night. So I had more extra reading and research to do before I went on the radio.
Yeah.
And when I woke up this morning, the first thing I did was pick up my phone before I got out of bed and look at the race. And Kari Lake was down like about 4,000 votes. And I was like, oh, goodness.
She was down last night by 10 points at around 11:30.
10,000.
I mean, 10 points. No, 10 points.
10 points. So
that's a lot.
I saw she was down 3,500, 4,000 points. I'm like, oh, gosh. And this was like 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And I figured, you know what? They're going to stop counting because it's the middle of the night. They're going to go to bed and come back in the morning. I'm going to have to go on the air today with her 3,500, 4,000 votes down, even though I know she's going to win. And it's just going to be, ugh. So I got in the shower. I got out of the shower. I checked again, and she was up by like 3,000 or 4,000. And now she's over 11,000 votes ahead. So she's really gained since then, like 15,000 votes. So she's got it locked up. And, this is really an amazing thing because the Democrats have no bench of candidates. I just saw on Fox, had Fox on muted, and they had this banner on the screen, growing calls for AOC to run for president in 24.
Oh, my gosh.
First off, now I know I don't want to get too accurate about this because I can't recall off the top of my head. But there have been a lot of people over the years that are in the House of Representatives that have run for president. Maybe one of them became president. And I don't mean used to be. I mean, I'm talking about going from the House to the presidency. I'm not talking about a lot of people used to be in the House, then they became a governor or a senator or a vice president. I'm talking about going directly from the House of Representatives to the president. I think there's only one person, if that many, who have done that. So, and you look at AOC.
Oh, God, I wish she'd run.
That
would be so good.
What has she done? What piece of legislation has she passed? I know she's talked about a lot of things like the Green New Deal, but what has she really gotten done? The only thing I can say that she's gotten done,
other than her hair and her nails.
No. The only thing I can think of that she's really accomplished is got Amazon not to build that facility that would have provided 50,000 jobs in New York.
That's true.
That
was a big accomplishment.
I don't know anything she's done, and for that matter, all these Bernie Sanders endorsed candidates got cream last night in the Democrat primaries. And those Bernie Sanders candidates are also backed by her because they're both Democratic socialists.
Well, yeah, they were saying on the news last night that the Democratic primaries, all of the radical people lost, that the more moderate Democrats won. And it really shows that the American people are definitely not happy with this radicalism that's happening. And this virtue signaling and social justice nonsense, maybe it worked in the past, but it is no longer driving people to vote because there's other pressing concerns that people are concerned with. And frankly, I think they're really tired of these really wealthy liberals telling them how to think and how to feel and what to say. And they're like, look, I can't afford my rent right now. I don't give a damn about your virtue signaling or if you think I'm a racist or whatever. Those little tactics used to work in the past. They were very effective in rounding people up, and they've thrown these words around and these names around so much that they're losing their meaning. Mm-hmm. They're losing their impact. But Brian, the Democrats have a history of asking all kinds of people to run for president. They asked Michael Avenatti. They asked Jon Stewart yesterday to run for president. They don't know what the hell they're doing. Anybody they get excited about for a minute. Yeah. They want them to run for president. I mean, they're really stupid people.
That is for sure.
Jon Stewart, for president, because he ranted and raved for a day. Give me a break. Okay. It took on Jack Posobiec, he thought.
This thing with Jon Stewart that's been going on, we all support our veterans, and any veteran that is wounded or disabled, they should, get everything that they're entitled to times 10. Especially these veterans that have had their lives destroyed and are disabled because of Liz Cheney's war criminal father's lies and George W. Bush's lies about WMDs. But Jon Stewart, I saw a picture of Jon Stewart that I think Jack Posobiec tweeted a few days ago, and he was out there. He was out in front of the Capitol with David Hogg, I believe. I can't swear to that, but I think it was Jon Stewart. David Hogg. And if you watch these exchanges on television and in person with Jon Stewart and others. He had a run-in with Jack Posobiec yesterday. He screams at people, ranting, dropping F-bombs, and I saw him first on Jake Tapper on CNN a few days ago, and he dropped the F-bomb, and they let it go. It's cable. They let it go. And then I saw this exchange with him and Jack Posobiec, and he was screaming, dropping these F-bombs, and you're this. And if you look at Jon Stewart, I'm not saying that his cause is wrong on this because we support veterans and wounded veterans and all of that. I support all, them getting any kind of relief that the government can provide. But what Jon Stewart is doing is acting. If you go online, you'll probably find it on Twitter. I imagine Jack Posobiec probably tweeted it. Watch the video exchange between Jon Stewart and Jack Posobiec. He is acting. Remember, he's an actor. Jon Stewart, the first time I heard of Jon Stewart, remember he used to be at the MTV Beach House. And he was an actor / comedian. And he used to go to that MTV Beach House and do comedy. And he's been in movies. He has acted. And he fell into that show that was a political parody because he was an actor and a comedian. And now all of a sudden they act like he's, some newsman. And he's got this show. I don't care what anyone says.
I think it got canceled.
He was fired from The Daily Show. He was making $20 million a year.
Well, I can see why. He's a lunatic.
So he's got this show. I don't know if they're doing another season, but
I think it got canceled.
It's on Apple TV, and I watched an episode of it. I can't even describe it. If you've got Apple TV, go and watch it. It's undescribable. It is, and let me tell you, I'm not saying this because he's a liberal or he's a jerk. It is the worst television.
He just happens to be those things.
No, it's just a. Yeah. It is the worst television program I have ever seen. I've
heard many people say that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a political show, and it is just so bizarre, so strange, and just so god-awful. And sometimes things can be so bad they're entertaining, like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or something. It's so bad and campy, it's entertaining. Not this. It's awful. And Jon Stewart, while his cause may be right for the veterans, I question it. I question his motivations. His show is embarrassing. Kathy thinks it's been canceled. Maybe. He's desperate to be relevant, and what he's doing is auditioning for something. I don't know if it's a show on MSNBC. I don't know what it is, but Jon Stewart is auditioning for something, maybe for a padded room in an insane asylum. But he's acting.
Well, you had said to me that he's obviously acting.
You can tell. You can see it in his face.
He's an actor. Before he did the Daily Show,
and he's a good actor. If you've seen
an actor,
movies, yeah,
and he's overplaying it and really getting and I think they've actually changed what they were doing because of him. I think they decided to push through this thing.
Well, that's fine. It's for veterans.
But the problem, it was full of pork. It was full of like $400 million of pork, and that's why Ted Cruz said that he turned it down, because that's what they do. They attach it to these heart-wrenching things, and if they don't pass them, then they look like horrible people, and like they're trying to hurt veterans. But Biden is spending so much of our money. He gave $8 billion to the Ukraine. He's passed 2 or 3 spending packages. He's spending more money they're going to tax everybody.
I think
more.
It was $80+ billion.
Yeah, they're going to tax people more because they've got to pay for all these spending things. They're going to pass this green energy thing, but Obama did the same thing. Obama just spent. This is what liberals do. They just spend our money. They never stop. And let me tell you, this is why they are going to lose in November and why Trump will win in 2024, because the American people just do not, and they always seem to like to spend our money when people are hurting. And, they can't let us just be successful and have a good life. They have to just take everything we work for to spend on stuff that we don't even care about. It's ridiculous. I want to talk about this thing real quick. I don't know if this is true or not, but Adam Kinzinger, who's retiring because he would lose, he said that Democrats have been funneling money into these MAGA politicians like Gibbs and all these people to help them win because they think they'll be easy to beat in the fall. Mm-hmm. If that's true, that's a stupid strategy. And he's very upset about it, apparently. Yeah. Even though he's supposedly a Republican, he's very upset that Democrats are putting money into these into the coffers of like Gibbs and Tudor Dixon and all these people, because they feel in November that the Democrats can beat them, which I don't think is going to happen.
It's because the Democrats and these never-Trumpers think that these MAGA candidates like Tudor Dixon are lunatics, and they're not. They're sane people.
Absolutely.
And, Tudor Dixon, I saw an interview with her last night on Laura Ingraham. She's very good.
Yep.
And she's going to go up this lunatic Whitmer, who's the governor of Michigan, who's a crazy woman. And if they're donating money to these Trump-backed MAGA candidates, and please keep doing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They can spend the money on whatever they want.
He's all upset. He looks like a little boy. To me, he's got like a weird little boy face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just looks like his face never fully developed into a manly face.
Yeah.
He's so strange looking. Mm-hmm. But he's very upset. But you know what? In November, he has no political clout at all. Goodbye. Bye, Felicia. Good riddance. Hasta la vista, whatever you want to say. Adios.
Now, I want to tell people, some people have asked me this week, why aren't you talking about Mike Lindell's new coffee? And we're going to talk about it now. And the reason that is the Mike Lindell My Coffee, which I have ordered, and I know some of you have. The Mike Lindell My Coffee is not available at mypillow.com. It's available at mystore.com. And I had to get in touch with Mike Lindell to get the okay to advertise it on the mystore.com, which I did, and have everything confirmed and everything today. We set everything up today.
To use the promo code.
Mm-hmm. So when you go to mystore.com, that's Mike Lindell's other store. He's got mypillow.com, but he's got mystore.com. And now, actually, starting today, you can use our promo code KANE, Kane, at checkout at mystore.com, and not just buy Mike Lindell's coffee, but anything at my store, you can use our promo code KANE for. But I want to talk a little bit about the My Coffee.
It's got a lot of good stuff in there, too, so definitely check it out.
Now, the My Coffee from Mike Lindell, and, I've not had the coffee yet, so I'm waiting for it to get here. But Christine, who's one of our Patreon supporters and is a moderator in my YouTube live chat room, she's already had My Coffee. She says it's spectacular.
I'm sure
She's great.
Everything Mike Lindell does is top-notch.
Yeah. And it comes in light roast, medium roast, dark roast, or decaf, whole bean and ground. Now, I don't get the decaf. To me, I mean, that's like drinking non-alcoholic beer. I
drink decaf.
I don't get that. I like medium roast coffee in general. Medium roast coffee, the lighter the roast, the more caffeine is in it. Light roast is a little too light, so I've got the medium roast, and you can order.
I thought you ordered the light. Okay.
No, medium. And you can order it in two different sizes, either 12-ounce or a 2-pound bag. I need the 2-pound bag because I go through a lot of coffee. I drink a lot of coffee. And it's available in both whole bean or ground. Of course, I got the ground because I don't have the whole bean crusher thing. But when you use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, you do get a 25% discount off the My Coffee from Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell says it's the best coffee ever. And everything that I've ever had from Mike Lindell is as good as he says and very high quality. I'm sure there's no difference with the coffee. So to order the Mike Lindell My Coffee, go to mystore.com, and it's right there at the top of the page. Use our promo code KANE at checkout, KANE, and save 25% off your Mike Lindell My Coffee. Now,
I'm doing a poll real quick. If you want to go to our YouTube, Brian Craig YouTube page, go to the community section. We have polls up there all the time. And I also put up our chili recipe for the members. So here's the question for the poll. Were the drugs found in Paul Pelosi illegal or legal? Like meaning legal, meaning prescribed, like a Xanax or a Valium. So you could choose legally prescribed or illegal drugs. We know there was some drugs in his system. So right now we've had over 400 votes. 85% say illegal. And 15 say
that's a little vague. Let me tell people what we're talking about and then clarify the question and the choices, okay?
Okay.
So Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, and I think their marriage has fallen apart. She's made this big trip without him. More information has come out about his DUI, which resulted in an accident. He not only had alcohol in his system, he had a drug in his system. They have not said what it is. Now,
it's like Hunter Biden.
Now, when Kathy says legal or illegal, you can be on a legal prescription drug and you're doctor shopping or you're taking a prescription drug you're not prescribed, or you're taking if it's one of these prescription drugs that drug addicts take, even if he has a prescription for it and he's taking it recreationally, I would count that as illegal because he got the prescription.
Well,
under
I couldn't get too complicated with the
background.
question.
No, but I'm telling people listening.
Yeah, so legal in the context of illegal means that he has a doctor's prescription for it. He might be abusing.
Well,
that
Rush Limbaugh had prescriptions for his drugs.
Hold
too.
on, let me say.
So.
It might mean he might be abusing that prescription
or doctor shopping,
but it's still technically legal,
or not have an ailment.
And
for
then you
it.
compare to the illegal, which is like a street drug, like that he get from Hunter Biden or something, like crack or something like that.
Paul Pelosi.
I'm thinking it's going to be like a legal, like oxycodone prescribed.
Paul
thing.
Pelosi is a snobby, very rich
too
guy.
Highbrow.
He would not be using street drugs.
No, he would. You never know. But
if he were, it would be like one of those synthetic things that you hear about like in the movies only.
I'm thinking it's some kind of pain medication or a Xanax, a Valium, something that doesn't mix with liquor. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something like that does not mix with alcohol.
If I were him,
Makes it more
I would want to take some type of medication that gives me amnesia so I don't have to remember I'm married to Nancy.
Or temporarily blinds you.
Yeah, whatever.
When she's in town.
But what I really want to see from the Paul Pelosi accident is the dashboard cam from the police.
Yes.
I do not believe he was alone. He was at a party late at night.
Find out.
He was out in his Porsche, which is the party car. He was coming home from some Eyes Wide Shut party probably.
Oh my gosh. That's gross.
There's no way he was there without a lady friend.
I promise you the people in Napa Valley hate the Pelosis. They're probably so sick of these people running around town like they're all that in a bag of chips. So they tried to get this not to be in the press. I know he tried to pull his weight, and they're like, screw you, and they've released it. They arrested him. He tried not to be arrested and pull his weight around. I don't think they like them in that town, and I think they're going to release all this stuff.
Well, what he did,
they want it out.
He not only was Nancy Pelosi's husband driving drunk, he was on drugs, and he got into an accident and hurt someone. And when the police came and he gave them his driver's license, he gave them a card that shows that he donates to a police charity, which was really an attempt to bribe them in a way to not pursue the charges.
Do you know Jackie Walorski?
Mm-mm.
Oh, she's a Republican rep. She just
died
in
I know who
a
she
car
is.
accident.
Oh my gosh, I know who she is.
Her and two of her assistants.
I've seen her on television many, many times.
Yeah,
oh my
she just
goodness,
died. It just happened.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. All right, I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Back after this.
Do you know someone dealing with substance abuse? If so, there's a book perfect for them. From author Stephen McDonald. Thanks for letting me share. This must-read book contains 368 quotes heard from recovering addicts and alcoholics. They are profound, funny, cringeworthy, memorable, and powerful. They will allow you to reflect, remember, and reassess your recovery. Thanks for letting me share is broken up into just 3 parts: getting here, staying here, and higher power. And take something from all of us as we continue to pray for those who haven't come in yet. Take what you want and leave the rest. Thanks for letting me share. From author Stephen McDonald. Order your copy right now. Available in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, iTunes, and Audible.com. Jewelry makes you feel special, and personalized jewelry is even better. Exclusively on Etsy, the shop specially for you. That's the letter U and all one word. On Etsy.com, sell custom jewelry that's as unique as you are. The items that's specially for you on Etsy come with Chinese, Korean, Japanese, or English text. Whether you want a name on a bracelet, keychain, tie clip, a ring, necklace, and more. They have exactly what you were looking for. Specially for You works with 2 very talented designers, and their items are handmade in Seoul, South Korea. Ordering is easy. Just go to their shop, specially for you. It's all one word and the letter U on Etsy.com. Place your order, tell them the name you choose, your font, and your language. The items are top quality and shipped directly to you or the recipient of your choice. Everything in the shop looks great. You will be proud to wear and give as a gift jewelry from Specially for You on Etsy.com. So you want to find the right web hosting company that fits your needs, but you don't know where to begin. You need to head over to cheapwebhostingoffer.com. They test and compare the best web hosting providers on the market to help people just like you choose from a very large web hosting offer and find the best solution as web hosting. And right now at cheapwebhostingoffer.com, you can save up to 70% off hosting plans and get a free domain. It's great for anyone who wants to start an online business, whether you're talking about a website or blog. Choosing the best web hosting is tough. There are hundreds of options, and every web hosting claims to be the best one out there. It can be confusing, but it doesn't have to be. CheapWebHostingOffer.com do all the research for you. All you have to do is choose the right one for you. Go right now to CheapWebHostingOffer.com and save up to 70% off hosting plans and get a free domain. That's CheapWebHostingOffer.com.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. So Alex Jones has really just destroyed his career and business with all this stuff, and this case is going on and with the Sandy Hook parents, and a lot of information has been coming out. I wanted to talk about some of this. It says here, Alex Jones has admitted that the Sandy Hook massacre was 100% real during his $150 million defamation trial. He filed for bankruptcy from his main company. Emails and messages show that Alex Jones was making $800,000 a day. That's $800,000 a day in 2018 on InfoWars, because he's got a lot of his own products, a vitamin line, and everything else that he does. And, you know, this is what happened with Alex. This is like my professional analysis as a radio talk show host as to what happened with Alex Jones here, okay? Alex Jones, this $800,000 a day, I've never made anything close to that. I don't know if I ever will. I wish I could.
That's for sure.
I wish I could. This is what happened with Alex Jones. And this is something that in this business you have to be very, very careful of. He hit on something and he started making this huge amount of money daily, $800,000. So what a day. So what happened to Alex Jones is he got like he started acting like an addicted gambler in a casino or at a racetrack, and he was doing things to keep that going so he could continue to make that $800,000 a day, and he got himself wrapped up in this subject matter and these claims and everything because these things he was saying. Lucrative. Well, these things that he was saying was the equivalent of a money-making machine. Yeah. And he couldn't stop because the money is just ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching,
well,
ka-ching.
Now he's going to lose that money.
And, the
money he made off that is going to go to the parents.
Yeah, and you've got to, in this business of broadcasting, you've got to be very careful. I know what to do and what not to do. People, you get people in your ear. You get people that are perhaps listeners of your program. You have people in your ear that work around you that are whispering in your ear. You have people that are against you that are trying to set you up, whispering in your ear, and you get yourself hooked up. And sometimes there's a lot of short-term gain in something, but long-term it's destroying you. And Alex Jones is destroying everything that he built. And I'll tell you something. Before this, this thing he was going through here, this will sound maybe crazy to some people, but I think he was on his way to being the next Rush Limbaugh. And what I mean by that is when Hillary Clinton was running for president against Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016, Hillary Clinton herself and in the liberal media, CNN and MSNBC, they would have a story and it would involve Alex Jones. Well, Alex Jones says this about Mrs. Clinton. Yeah. Or the Republican Party is the party of Alex Jones. And it used to be, it was Rush they were talking about. The Republican Party is the party of Rush Limbaugh, or Rush Limbaugh said this. And they were sharing, and I thought, wow, he has arrived. And he's about to, and he got wrapped up in this and the other scandal. You guys know what it is. And it's not just destroyed his credibility with the mainstream. It's financially wrecked his entire company. Now, however this turns out, he's very good at what he does. He is a well-known celebrity. He has the ability to earn a lot of money, and he'll be okay in the long run, but he'll never be where he would have been or where he was because of this. And people get wrapped up in these things. I'll tell you something. You got to when you're a conservative and you're a public person, you are under a microscope all of the time. I'll give you an example of something that someone tried to pull with me yesterday. And if you were listening to me on the radio, you may have heard this. We're taking calls, and a guy calls in with a Southern accent, of course. They always have like these Kentucky Southern accents, these fake seminar callers. Mm-hmm. And he called in to talk about the elections yesterday, and he said his name was Florida Militia. Give me a break. I've never heard something like this. And then he said something which I'm not going to say. Mm-hmm. And I immediately, and because what he said was way over the line, I immediately disconnected the call and dumped it so it wasn't over the air because he said something that you're not allowed to say on the air. And what this guy was trying to do, he was a seminar caller. He was fake conservative, fake MAGA. He was a liberal plant who was trying to, probably calling other radio shows too. These seminar callers like this Florida Militia fake guy call Republican MAGA shows. Many people are not as, quick as I am, and they get wrapped up in a conversation with some idiot like this who is saying things that you're not allowed to say.
It's like if they're baiting them.
They're trying to set you up.
Yeah.
And Alex Jones, he had a couple things going on. He had this drug of the money, almost like when you're making $800,000 a day during this period by talking about it, you're in a head almost like a drug cartel leader. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money. He's trying
I just can't believe that he was making that kind of money.
I can because he's very, and he's doing everything he can so that tomorrow it's 800,000, not 400,000. And he knew talking about this and going over the line.
Kept it going.
He knew he was going over the line, but he couldn't help himself because of the money. And I've seen people run into trouble with this, and he's going to be wrecked over this, but he'll survive somehow.
I don't think so. I think once the verdict is reached and he has to pay damages and all, I think he'll be very damaged goods, and nobody will be affiliated with him.
Because one of the reasons people will not want to be affiliated with him is not just because they don't want the taint of this on them. When you're on the air, the people you're on the air with, your partners, you've got to be able to trust one another.
Right.
And I'm a fan of Alex Jones. I mean, I respect him a little bit.
But people don't want to get sued.
But it would be difficult for me to be able to trust him because he's so out of control.
Right.
How could I be in business with him? How could I be on the air with him?
I agree with you. I wanted to say I posted on your Facebook group, Brian Craig Show, DeSantis has released his first campaign ad. I don't know if you want to play it or watch it, but it's right here on the Blaze. And the ad plays the greatest hits of DeSantis' first term.
Why don't you
opposition to COVID, lockdowns, fighting back against woke liberals.
Why don't you tweet it and I'll play it I'll play it here from my Twitter.
Okay,
and then because I've not heard this because I wanted to talk about him today. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, I've got it here.
Bring it up.
I have it on my Twitter. Let me pull it up, guys.
Here you go. I put it also in the Facebook group.
Well, I can't get it to play. See, I hate when we do these things live because then there's always a problem. I'll pull it up here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Just bear with us, guys.
Oh, and here's a reason for you not to watch the new Star Wars show.
Well, let's play this first. Okay.
I was gonna say it while you were trying to do that.
I got it queued up right here. Hold on. Okay. Hold that one. This is the DeSantis. I've not heard this ad, so I'll be hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, me too.
Dear Governor DeSantis, I wanted to write and thank you for working so hard for the citizens of Florida.
Dear Governor DeSantis, I've never written a political leader.
But I'm writing to express my appreciation for keeping us Floridians free and thriving.
A governor who says what he is going to do and then does it.
I realize that the right thing is not always the easy thing.
Without your leadership, we wouldn't have been able to stay open.
Because of you, My child has thrived through this pandemic.
The monoclonal antibodies saved my mother's life.
I'm 11 years old and I'm glad I could go to school.
Watching you beat back the woke liberal media makes me so proud to be a Floridian. Freedom to live.
Freedom to go to school.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping Florida free.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, that's a good ad.
Really good.
You know, those of you
Everybody loves this guy.
Yeah.
We're so lucky he's our governor. I tell you, we really are blessed to have him.
Those of you that don't live in Florida like we do, you don't understand how much he's loved here. Ron DeSantis is loved in Florida by Floridians who have lived here since he's been governor, like we love Donald Trump. It's very close to being equal.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, and he saved us during COVID. We're all aware of that. He kept us open the entire time.
Yeah.
Florida was never shut down. The only things that were shut down in Florida were things that Democrats in certain communities had control of that they shut down, and some private companies shut things down.
Like city parks, things like that were shut down for a while.
By local Democrats, not him.
By the local, and they had the authority. And he didn't try to overstep them. He was like, you have the authority, it's a local thing. But he did not let anybody shut down a business or the schools or anything anything he had control over. He was like, you can't shut down. Exactly.
We're open the whole time.
No problem.
And, the thing about him, okay, a lot of people say, well, see, these fake MAGA people, they have this thing they say all the time. Well, we don't want Ron DeSantis to be Donald Trump's running mate. We want to keep him as governor. Okay. He is running for re-election, and he is going to be re-elected, okay? By the time Trump comes into office, he'll be halfway through his second term. He'll have 2 years left. In Florida, we have term limits for governor. It is 2 terms. He is going to leave us at the end of this term. So if he were to become vice president with Donald Trump, he would be leaving 2 years early, but he would still, be leaving us those next 2 years because we have term limits. And we have 2 senators in Florida that neither plan on retiring anytime soon. So he's got to move up. Now, I'm really hoping that after Ron DeSantis's second term is expired, or he leaves to be Trump's vice president in 2024, I'm hoping Don Jr. runs for governor of Florida. Don Jr. has lived in Florida for a couple years now. He lives in Jupiter, Florida, which is the northern tip of Palm Beach County, which is the county Mar-a-Lago is in. And Don Jr. is also very popular here. But Ron DeSantis is, he's a great, the thing about Ron DeSantis is, we all supported him and everything because Trump did. The love that Floridians have for him isn't just because Trump backed him. The reason that Florida residents love Ron DeSantis so much is because we lived through his leadership during COVID, and we see how great he did keeping us open and getting us through it.
I think also a huge part
saved
of it,
us.
He's a true leader.
Yeah, he is.
He does what he feels is right. He does not let the left push him around at all. He just doesn't. He knows how to handle the press. He knows exactly what to say, the right response, and he does not let them bully him. He really stands up for what he believes in. And he's adamant. He doesn't cave into pressure, or he's not afraid to speak his mind. And he's really fighting with these drag shows and all this stuff. And then recently he was invited on The View, and he sent them a letter, which was all.
Well, let me read that.
Yeah,
I
he sent
pulled that
them a
up.
letter basically saying no thanks.
Let me read that letter.
He stands up to these people.
Yeah. So The View invited Ron DeSantis on, and he had his press secretary send a response to The View about his appearance. And this was just beautiful. I'm going to read it word for word. Now, this was Ron DeSantis' press secretary that wrote this to The View, all right? Thanks for the invite. I understand that you were sending this request on behalf of your team. But are the hosts of The View really interested in hearing from Governor DeSantis about all of the important work he is doing on the behalf of Floridians to protect their health and livelihoods, to stand up for parents and children, and to defend freedom? The deputy press secretary who sent this to The View then said, which of the below statements from the host of The View do you recommend our team consider when deciding if the interview will be a genuine pursuit of truth. DeSantis' office offered 4 examples, including Joy Behar calling Governor DeSantis a homicidal sociopath, Sonny Hostin declaring him to be fascist and a bigot, Anna Navarro, who claims to be a Republican, calling DeSantis anti-black, Sonny Hostin criticizing his policies as anti-black history laws. We will pass on this offer, Ron DeSantis' office said. Also, please note, we don't coordinate appearances of public events of a political nature from the official office. Our role is to serve the people of Florida. What a humiliation for The View. I mean, what did they think, that DeSantis was going to go in there and help with their ratings?
Remember how they'll rationalize it that he's afraid. Remember when John McCain went on? I'm not a fan of John McCain, but they were so disrespectful to him. Remember Whoopi Goldberg said, "Are you going to put me back in chains?" She wanted to have that moment with DeSantis of labeling him a bigot. Mm-hmm. And he's not going to sit there in the middle of these 4 haters, these 4 women, and let them just berate him like he's a little boy who stuck his hand in the cookie jar and they're all his mommy, yelling at him on television. He's not going to let them have that moment. I tell you, I admire the hell out of him. You know what's trending right now? Meghan McCain meltdown because of Carrie Lake. She's freaking out, I guess. Her and her mom are upset that Carrie Lake has won Arizona pretty much, and the McCain dynasty in Arizona is over. Those days are over.
You know, the McCain family was very much behind this Robeson, and it's a devastating defeat. People are fed up with the establishment. You know, the Republican establishment have been taking us for granted. They don't do anything for us. They think we got nowhere else to go and no alternatives.
This has been building, Brian, since Obama. Yeah. It's been building and building for years.
Well, before Trump, we didn't have an alternative, right? Well, the Tea Party was a good thing, but there was no leader of the Tea Party. Like with Trump, there was no leader. It was a leaderless movement, and it fell apart.
Well, what I've said to you is, with Trump, the Republican, the voters saw what actually can be accomplished. Mm-hmm. And they're like, wow, we really can get things done, because before that, the Republicans really didn't do much.
Yeah.
And they saw the changes he made and the positive effect it had on the economy and gas and inflation and people's pocketbooks and doing well in their businesses. And they're like, they're just realizing how many rhinos are there and how they're lying to everybody. And I think during Obama, a lot of people were sick of it because they had the House and Senate. They really didn't stand up to him. They did nothing. And people were realizing when Trump came along, wow, they really don't do anything and they don't represent our interests. So I think they're finally, like you said, have had enough of it.
Absolutely. Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. And, all Patreon supporters have access on our Patreon page to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. And also our top Patreon supporters, you have your names, first names only, of course, but you have your names listed in the description of each and every podcast episode, which is on all of our podcast platforms as well as YouTube. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, Dee, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, and Leigh Paul. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you all. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this episode. All right, listen, we'll be right back after this.
Cancer is a disease that affects almost everyone in some way. The book from author David Etheridge, Cancer Alternatives, available on Amazon, tells you what doctors won't, how you can prevent and fight cancer while restoring your health and immunity. Cancer Alternatives also discusses the damages that are caused by certain choices people make and how you can make the right choices to fight cancer effectively. Written from personal experience, Cancer Alternatives discusses a number of things that can affect the outcome of your cancer struggle, as well as some things that might even prevent cancer in the first place. This must-read book is not about traditional cancer treatment because that is the realm of medical practice. It is about why cancer develops, why it spreads, and what you can do to reduce the risk, presence, and spread of cancer. Cancer Alternatives from author David Etheridge. Order your copy on Amazon. Are you a cool dad? Parenting and fatherhood meets self-help in the book Daddy is Cool Like That, available on Amazon. This important book is all about positive parenting, relationships with children, and being a super cool daddy. The perfect daddy and daughter moments in this heartwarming story will inspire you to celebrate your own family relationships. This book's charming illustrations will grab your attention and make the story about daddy even more heartwarming. This book is not only a great gift, but also a fantastic read for everyone. Daddy is Cool Like That may be the book that gives you the incentive to be not only cool, but magnificent. This is a children's picture book that depicts a young family who has recently had their father diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Partly inspired by the author's family journey with the disease, it shows other young children and the families how to cope and to realize that there can still be moments of enjoyment to be shared, as well as the happy memories that follow. Daddy is Cool Like That, available on Amazon. Get your copy today. If you want lips that glimmer and sparkle, there's a lip kit on Amazon you will love. The shiny, long-lasting Lipstick Glitter Lip Kit. It comes in many colors, including Scarlet Red, Dynasty Gold, Sugar Nude, and Purple Rain, with more exciting colors on the way. These are long-lasting, fade-proof lipsticks that stay put and make your lips look fabulous. Create perfect, shiny lips that look gorgeous and shiny. You can buy the shiny, long-lasting Lipstick Glitter Lip Kit on Amazon at amazon.com/shops/Hina Laulea. That's HINALAULEA.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You know, today on the radio, I interviewed Greta van Susteren. You know, she's on Newsmax now. Used to be on Fox, and she's been everywhere. She was on MSNBC. She's been on CNN. She
has been everywhere.
She's been on every cable news network. Yeah, and if you are a Patreon supporter, I did on the Patreon page, by the way, put that interview up on the Patreon page by itself, just the interview by itself, so you guys can listen to that. But couple things. I am going to, over the weekend, upload the Greta van Susteren interview just by itself to my YouTube channel, so you guys can check that out. But it was a funny thing in the beginning. I was talking to her about when I first heard of her, and the first time I ever heard or saw of Greta van Susteren was during the O.J. Simpson trial. And because I watched that trial every day.
Me too.
I watched the pre-trial hearings. I watched the whole trial. The trial itself was 9 months, and she was very good with her legal analysis. And I said something to her during the interview when she corrected me about it. I guess she didn't like my phrasing. When O.J. Simpson was acquitted of the two murders that he clearly, without question, committed.
Oh, yeah.
And he was acquitted by a racist jury. Remember, one of the jury members gave him the Black Power sign as they were walking out of the jury box. And, I mean, he was guilty as the day is long, O.J. Greta van Susteren got the first interview with O.J. and went to the party of celebration at his house in Brentwood the day he was acquitted. And I said to Greta, I talked to her about, first time I heard he was on O.J., and she says, and then she talked to me about that. And then I said, after the verdict, I remember you went home with O.J. when he went back home when he got acquitted for the two. And she said, I did not go home with O.J. I met him at his house for the interview. I don't know what she
wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Yeah. That was a pretty funny thing. But you guys, Patreon.
I'd like to know if she thinks O.J. did it.
Well, this is the thing
to know
that
her opinion on that or her thoughts on that.
Greta, I watched a lot of the O.J. Simpson coverage, including Greta. And if you heard the interview today, Greta van Susteren does not like to give you her opinion.
No, I think she gave you some legalese, some big legal answer.
Yeah, so she did. She never gave the opinion whether he was guilty or innocent, like from her own opinion. She was giving legal analysis.
Yeah, that's what she did.
But she scored the first interview that day with O.J. because O.J. had a cable television in his jail cell during the trial at the LA County Jail. And O.J. said that he watched Greta van Susteren every night to get her analysis on the trial. And he liked her. And that's how she got invited to do the interview and everything. It was a pretty exciting time. You guys that were not around following the news during O.J. Simpson missed out, man. I I always call that the golden age of radio. And the O.J. Simpson murder trial in talk radio was amazing. At that time, there was no internet like we know it of it now. The internet was new. Very few people were on it. So everything was on the news, on television, because you didn't have streaming. People that had the internet had the very, very slow AOL dial-up. And I was, I was working with Steve Kane back then, although I wasn't co-hosting the show with him like I do now. I was doing an overnight show and was Steve's board op. But Steve did something. This was hilarious what Steve Kane did. And he did something that, I worked at this talk radio station that Steve Kane was part owner of and the program director. And he couldn't be home during the day to watch the trial. He was on the air from 9 to noon. And the trial started at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but really started at noon is when things started to heat up. So Steve, since he couldn't be home to watch it all day, he was running around doing work and meeting with clients and things like this. He had the radio station for 9 months play the O.J. Simpson trial all day on the radio just so he could hear it because he couldn't be in front of the TV. And there were some pretty well-known radio talk show hosts who had their shows preempted because of this. Joyce Kaufman, Al Rantel. They had their shows preempted for almost a year.
It was every day from 12 to 9 o'clock.
Yeah, just so Steve could watch or hear the OJ trial on his radio. It was hilarious when you think about it. But
it was riveting.
But what was exciting on the radio about it was this, okay? There was a transformation. That trial, there was a pretrial hearing that went on for a short time where some of the evidence was presented. And then they had the 9-month murder trial. And in the beginning, there was a lot of racial division because Rodney King was before that, and we were still in the Rodney King era. And the board would be lit every day with black callers who said, OJ didn't do it. OJ didn't do it. Why would he do that? And they had all these theories. You remember the Colombian necktie and all that stuff, the Colombian drug dealers. And
he beat the crap out of his wife on a regular basis. She was always calling the cops. I mean, those things escalate.
Oh, yeah. So in the beginning of the trial, the actual murder trial itself, every day, board lit up, all black callers, OJ didn't do it, OJ didn't do it, that racist mark for. And then as the evidence came in, the calls changed on a dime to OJ didn't do it to, yeah, he did it, but white people have been getting away with killing black people for 400 years. So what's two for us? And it was just I call it the golden age of radio. I miss the OJ trial.
Well, we have breaking news that'll be very, very exciting for Android phone users.
Oh, this is big.
Truth Social, you can now pre-register on Android.
So it will be available on Android.
It will be available. They just truthed it 41 seconds ago, Truth Social. We have some exciting news. The Truth Social Android app is now available for our US-based users to pre-order in the Google Play Store. Android users, you can now sign up to pre-order the app here, and they give a link. So that's on Truth Social, if you follow Truth Social, on Truth Social. And they give you the link, and you can pre-register. Or you can go to the Google Play Store, I guess, on your desktop, or just search it in the.
Well, okay,
that's going to blow up.
Well,
Truth Social.
let's talk about this, okay?
Yeah, that's huge.
Truth Social has not been in the Google Play Store. It has only been on Apple devices, and you could get it on your Android phone if you opened it up through the web browser on the phone. And there's a workaround to get a fake-looking app icon. And it has not been in the Google Play Store, and this has been a big problem. We're iPhone people, but most people have Android phones.
Oh, a lot of people have Androids.
Most people have Android phones by far.
Why is that, you think? I love my iPhone.
You know what? I think they're cheaper. They're cheaper. I mean,
iPhones are expensive.
But I pay more money for the phone, for the iPhone, because it's simple to use, and I have a Mac and everything, and
it connects all your devices, which is nice.
And because I live stream on my iPhone every day for 3 hours, and I also vlog for my YouTube channel on it as well, it's worth it to me. But anyway, regardless of this, before it was available on Apple, it was available for pre-order just like this. And I did the pre-order months before it was months.
In. This might not take as long because now it's up and running. It's not the same deal.
But when it became live, it automatically downloaded on my device without me having to do anything. Yes. So if you have an Android phone, go and pre-order the True Social app. You can follow me on True Social, by the way, at Real Brian Craig on True Social. But here's the thing: this is
exciting.
True Social's amazing. Donald Trump got banned from all of the social media platforms, so he went out and created his own, and people kind of laughed at it because, there have been attempts at other social media platforms for conservatives. There was a conservative alternative to Facebook about 5 years ago that failed. And I know some of you will take issue when I say some of these, but Gab, Parler, and Gitter. I'm on Gitter. I like Gitter, but Gab, Parler, and Gitter are like fringe, and the only people that are on them are conservative people. What's happened with Truth, it's gone mainstream. Governor Newsom's on Truth Social. Liberals are all over Truth Social
now. There are
Mm.
so many liberals on Truth Social now. I've had many people respond just in the last few weeks to truths I've made. They're very nasty, by the way. And one liberal actually retruthed me, and he's like, "Why are you here? What are you doing here, you MAGA scum?"
It's Trump's platform.
And I said, "What are you doing here? This is Trump's platform.
Yeah.
They can't stay away. It's like moths to a flame. They love the guy."
Let me tell you, okay, this is amazing. Now that it's available in the Google Play Store, you got to get True Social. Here's the thing about this. This is amazing.
It is.
Two things have happened that have made Twitter three things actually have happened that have made Twitter irrelevant. And I'm going to name them.
Oh, yeah, it's very irrelevant.
And the importance is not necessarily in this order. But the three things that have made Twitter irrelevant is, one, Trump has his own platform, which is an alternative to Twitter. Two, Elon Musk totally exposed Twitter with the bots that they don't have as much activity as they claim. It's fake. And three, the arrogance to ban the sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump, from it. And let me tell you, when they banned President Trump on January 6th from all these platforms, there was a national emergency going on with the Capitol breach. And what they did is they cut off the sitting president of the United States from any lines of communication. They had him isolated without being able to communicate to the American people. The president of the United States at the time, Donald Trump, like Hitler in the bunker, being cut off. And
I don't know if that's such a great comparison.
Well, no, but that's how they thought. They thought we're going to cut him off just like Hitler in the bunker. That's what they thought, and they justified it. And what happened with Twitter, there's this old phrase that General Motors used to have, too big to fail, and they failed, right? And they get bailed out.
Yeah.
Twitter had an arrogance. They had an arrogance that they were all powerful beings, almost like gods on Mount Olympus, like in Clash of the Titans, And between Trump and Elon Musk, they're done. And
I think what really hurt Twitter, the bots too, but I think when Trump said he would never go back on that platform,
that's right.
I think that's what made Elon Musk now want to pull out of it. I think that really hurt their brand.
Yeah.
And like you said, once Newsom went on Truth about a month and a half ago, I said to you, all these liberals are going to go on Truth now. They can't stay away. They're obsessed with Trump. Now they rationalize it like, well, like when they ask the people that worked for Trump that are now on The View, well, how could you work for him? Well, Stephanie Grisham said, I was trying to do my part to save the country.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Give me a break. These liberals, they'll rationalize it to themselves and to others. Well, I'm on there to monitor people. I'm on there to set
how about
them
get a
straight
job? Who are you to monitor
and all this
people?
stuff? I mean, who cares what they think? But Trump, he really, I tell you, you don't want to go up against this guy. He really has a way of, I've said it before in his book, the first chapter, he said he's into revenge.
Yeah.
He really has a way of going after what he deems as his enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to cross him effectively. And that's, I think, how he's probably ran his businesses and how he now handles politics, and it works for him. And I think people like that and respect it because these people are going after him for no reason. He's done nothing wrong, and he's unseating all these rhinos. And now he's destroying Twitter because Twitter tried to destroy him.
What's a couple things about Trump, okay? The first time I saw President Trump at work was many years before he was president. I can't remember what year this was. It may have been the late 80s or it may have been the early 90s.
Yeah, I think 80s.
Somebody out there will tell me. He was involved in this business dealing with Merv Griffin over a hotel, I believe, in Jersey and Paradise Island.
Atlantic City,
I think. An Atlantic City hotel and something with Paradise Island in that area. And there was an entire hour-long special on television that was like a Dateline special or West 57th Street. Remember that show? One of those news magazines?
Yeah.
And it showed the whole deal in process. And Donald Trump just cleaned Merv Griffin's clock. Merv Griffin,
he's ruthless,
became a billionaire accidentally. He was a television talk show host, for those that don't remember, but he is the creator of Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, yeah.
And he also produced Jeopardy. And he became a billionaire because Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy became so popular.
Yes.
And he thought he was a businessman. And he went up against Trump and he lost tons of money. And Trump made a lot of money. It's amazing. I've never been able to find that documentary that was on the news magazine. It was on NBC. But anyway, back to this with True Social.
He's making Twitter irrelevant.
So by the next presidential election, it'll be before then, but that'll be by then, I'll predict Twitter will not be the place where the dialogue is. It's going to be True Social.
It already is starting
and
to be,
it's transforming fast. And the next step for True Social, okay, that now that they're in the Google Play Store, which is amazing because most people have Android phones, right? The next step that would be helpful for me is, I read a lot of news online from every online news source. And a lot of the news sources, they have those buttons at the top of articles to post to Facebook, Twitter.
Yes.
Some even have, the Gateway Pundit even has a link to Gab. Truth Social needs to have a button on Breitbart and things like that.
You know what? Even on
post
Trump's
articles.
You know what? Even on Trump's website from the desk of Trump, they don't even have a Truth Social button. They have Twitter, Facebook.
Oh, they have to update that.
So that from what I saw, it might have been an older thing I saw today, but because somebody had a link, but I don't think so. But they need to have that. You're right. They need to have it on all these. Now, I don't know how many liberal publications like the New York Times or them are going to put a button like that. But you are
they never will.
When Newsom joined Truth, that was and I don't know why he did it, but that was he said to what liberals say. He's there to straighten out the lies.
Oh, yeah, well, come on over.
He really was that was the green light, okay,
for Democrats.
For Democrats, and they are nasty. Let me tell you, because if you put anything in there, they don't want to hear it. They come after you.
And you know what? The way President Trump has done this,
it's incredible,
is amazing because he didn't want to have a crash, so he got it up there for people to pre-order, and then very slowly let people get on the platform so it didn't get overwhelmed and crash. And it is operated flawlessly. And so anyway, follow me on Truth Social at Real Brian Craig.
And I'm a Florida Mermaid on Truth Social.
That's right. That's right. Listen, guys, we're out of time, but we will be back next time. You're listening to The Brian Craig Show. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We will talk to you next time.